How's it going, friends? This is Jeff coming at you with another market update. First, inflation rates. Inflation in July 2022 was at 8.5%, which is down from 9.1% in June. Additionally, the average price of a gallon of gas, which is the main driver of inflation because it's used to transport literally everything, is just below $4 for the first time in a while. $3.96. This is a little over 21% below the high of $5.02 that we saw in June. Next, we're going to talk about market activity. In the Northern Virginia area, we sold roughly 3,100 homes in July, down from over 3,800 in June. Seasonally, this is really common, normal market behavior. A lot of folks with kids bought and closed on their new homes back in April and May, specifically so they could take the summer to move in and get settled before school starts again, which is right around now. Also, spring is when the flowers look their best and listing photos really make a great looking property pop. The average sales price of a home in Fairfax County last month was $771,000, down from the $792,000 we saw back in June, but still a solid 8.1% above last year. Just for reference, we're expecting to see somewhere between 10 and 13% appreciation by the year's end here in the area. Nationally is a whole different story. Nationally, we're seeing anywhere between 5 and 11%. You may have heard that inventory around the country is beginning to shoot up as buyer activity slows down. Here in the Northern Virginia area, we're at 36 days of inventory, up from a low of just 9 back in January. This means that sellers' homes are taking a little bit longer to sell, 8 days on average to get under contract, up from 6 last month, which means that buyers are able to have a little bit more leverage. It's not a bad time to sell, and it's still a seller's market, because remember, a balanced market is when there's roughly 3 to 6 months of inventory. And we're still talking about 36 days. We're talking about just over 1 month of inventory. But the days of throwing a dirt box on the market and expecting a bidding war over it are over. Last time we saw inventory at these levels was back in October of 2020. Another thing we like to track is the median sales price to the original list price. In other words, are people getting their asking price for the house? We are literally right at 100%, slightly down from the 100.9% we saw last month. What that means is that the market is finding its balance as far as pricing homes goes. So let's talk about options. If you are a homeowner, what options do you have to build your wealth and use your finances accordingly? There are two different kinds of loans that homeowners often take advantage of. There are home equity loans and there are home equity lines of credit, or HELOCs. We'll break it down. It's not that confusing. The difference between a HELOC and a home equity loan is basically about how they're used. A standard home equity loan is basically similar to your mortgage. That is a fixed amount that you borrow at a given percentage for you to pay back in installments. Where a HELOC is more like a credit card. You can use it as you need to, up to a certain limit. And in both cases, the equity in your house is the collateral. HELOCs have started to come back, according to one of my favorite HELOCs have started to come back as the leader, according to one of my favorite data sources, HousingWire. This is not really a surprise because so many people in the country have so much wealth. Let's use an easy example. Let's say your home is worth $600,000 if you sold it today, and you still owe about $400,000 on the mortgage. That means you have about $200,000 in equity in the house. Equity equals ownership. Okay. So let's say you want to renovate your kitchen to update the house. Kitchens and bathrooms get you the biggest returns when you go to sell, by the way. And you've done some homework on what the project is going to cost. You've interviewed a few contractors and you know the project will probably cost between $20,000 and $30,000. You could take out a home equity loan for an exact amount, say $22,457, just to pay for that project to that contractor. But then you have no flexibility if you need to adjust that amount up. A HELOC would allow you to set an upper limit, so if you want the flexibility to add upgraded sink fixtures at the last minute, you could. Let's talk about mortgage rates. Interest rates on mortgages right now average just over 5%. 5.188%. But they've been fluctuating. Don't forget, to find out if these are likely to rise or fall, follow what? The 10-year Treasury bond curve. This is how you get to it. This is why the very first thing your realtor will do once you've won your bid and got a house under contract is send a copy of the contract to your lender so that they can lock the interest rate into what it was that day. If the interest rates on the day you ratify are 5% and the very next day they're at 5.8%, you don't care. Your payments and your interest rate are fixed from that point forward. So let's illustrate what the actual difference from one interest rate to another is as far as a monthly payment would go. A $700,000 home with no interest attached to it would cost roughly $3,200 a month, including the mortgage and taxes and all the other nonsense. Back when interest rates were down near 4%, the total monthly payment would have been something like $4,500 a month. for a $700,000 house. At 5.188%, which is our most recent average, that total monthly payment looks like roughly $5,000 per month. But let's say you have a credit score below 700, and not far below 700, just below 700. Let's say you're at 680. The current rate for that is 7.345%. Your payment is over $900 a month more just because you're you. We used to say that having bad credit could really knock you out of the game. The thing is that loans have tightened their lending standards so much that it's 700 is the minimum benchmark. We're not even talking about, oh, so-and-so had a 580, so they got a higher interest rate. We're talking about so-and-so had a 685 and they got a higher interest rate. That's one of the reasons I keep saying that we are so unlikely to be headed for a housing crash, just like those fools on YouTube would like you to believe, because lending standards have been so high now that relative risk to the lender has been super, super low. Let's say you just bought your house in the last year or two, and there is an event where your home's price drops a little. What's the first thing you're going to do? The answer is absolutely nothing. You have a bunch of equity in your house, and you're going to sell it just because the house's value dropped a little bit? Nobody's going to do that. You'll continue to pay your mortgage, you'll go to work, you'll buy your groceries, and you'll live your life. Because unless you have to sell your house, it's still yours. And it's still a better bet than renting, because you'll never have a landlord drop a 30-day surprise on you. Having to pack your stuff and find a new place to live when you didn't have time to plan it is a giant stressful pain in the ass. Luckily, all the data points to a large-scale event being really, really unlikely. That's all I've got for you right now. DM me, give me questions. I'm here to help, I'm here to educate, I'm here to serve. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.